Welcome to the Global War Watch Network. Imagine this. A defense deal worth nearly $30 billion is on the brink of falling apart. And the outcome? Well, it's set to completely reshape Canada's role in NATO, its grip on the Arctic, and the future of its entire aerospace industry.
You know what looked like a sure thing, a done deal to modernize Canada's Air Force, is now being completely re-examined. A massive contract is hanging by a thread, and a surprise challenger from Sweden is waiting in the wings. This is about way more than just fighter jets. It's a story about money, strategy, and national pride.
And let's just take a moment to appreciate the scale we're talking about here. The total cost of this program is $27.7 billion. A number that big absolutely demands a second look, and that's exactly what's happening in Ottawa right now.
All right, so to really get what's at stake, here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start with the original multi-billion-dollar deal, then look at the cracks that started to show. We'll introduce you to the Swedish challenger, put the F-35 and the Gripen head-to-head, and finally, unpack the incredibly high-stakes choice that Canada is now facing.
Okay, let's start at the beginning. We need to look at the original agreement, the one that was supposed to launch Canada's Air Force into the next generation.
So the initial plan was pretty straightforward, right? The Royal Canadian Air Force has these old CF-18 Hornets, and man, they are way past their prime. The chosen solution was 88 brand-new, state-of-the-art F-35A stealth fighters from the American defense giant Lockheed Martin. The deal was supposed to cover everything: the jets, the pilot training, and all the infrastructure needed to support them.
And they had a pretty aggressive timeline for all this. The big announcement came in early 2023. The first jets were scheduled to touch down in Canada in 2026, and by 2032, boom, Canada was supposed to have a fully operational fleet of some of the most advanced fighter jets on the planet.
So, if the plan was so solid, what went wrong? Why the sudden hesitation? Well, it turns out that massive price tag was just the tip of the iceberg.
It all boils down to a fundamental question the Canadian government is asking. Is this enormous expense really giving the best possible value for the country? And it seems the answer is no longer a clear and simple yes.
A huge part of this comes down to domestic economics. Ottawa isn't just buying jets, they're pushing for a much better deal for Canadian industry. They want to see high-tech Canadian jobs, they want real technology transfer to their own companies, and they need proof that this giant pile of public money is actually going to benefit Canada's own aerospace sector.
But it's not just about the upfront cash either. There are some serious logistical headaches popping up. Government reports are already sounding the alarm about delays in building the specialized hangars and training systems that the F-35 needs. Plus, there are huge questions about the long-term costs and complexities of just keeping these advanced planes in the air. It requires a super sophisticated and expensive supply chain.
And then there's the whole strategic angle. Look, the U.S. is Canada's closest ally, no question. But there's a growing feeling in Ottawa that it's risky to be totally dependent on just one supplier. It's about maintaining strategic autonomy. Basically, the freedom to control your own military gear, upgrade it when you want, without having to ask another country for permission.
So, with all these doubts swirling around the F-35 deal, it kind of cracked the door open for someone else. And let me tell you, a very serious competitor from Sweden walked right in with a compelling alternative. Say hello to the Saab Gripen E. Now, this is a totally different beast. It might not have the same level of stealth as the F-35, but it's famous for being a tough, reliable, and seriously cost-effective fighter. It's built for easier maintenance and is perfect for operating in harsh, cold climates, which is a huge plus for a country like Canada with all that Arctic territory, right?
And here's the clever part. Saab's offer is basically a direct answer to every single one of Canada's worries. They're not just selling 88 planes, they're talking about building assembly lines in Canada, setting up a local maintenance hub, and they're committing to a full transfer of technology. That gives Canadian companies a much bigger piece of the action.
So, this sets up a really fascinating choice, doesn't it? How do these two jets actually stack up, not just as flying machines, but as a whole package for Canada?
Okay, this chart really breaks it down. On one hand, you've got the F-35. Its biggest selling points are that incredible stealth and sensor package. It fits seamlessly with NATO and US forces. But on the other side, you've got the Gripen. Its whole game is lower operating costs and easier maintenance. And look at that industrial offer. Local assembly and full tech transfer versus existing supply contracts? That's a real game changer if you're looking for that strategic independence we talked about.
This whole situation has led to a pretty interesting third option, kind of a why not both scenario. The idea is that Canada could buy a smaller number of F-35s for those high-end NATO missions, but use the more affordable Gripen for the day-to-day work of patrolling its own massive territory, especially up in the Arctic.
And that brings us to the massive choice facing Ottawa. This isn't just about buying new planes. This decision is going to define Canada's defense policy and its industrial strategy for decades to come.
So, you can see the tightrope the Canadian government is walking here. They have to balance the F-35's top-tier fighting capability with the Gripen's promise of industrial benefits and long-term savings. It's a classic tug of war. Do you go for maximum military power or for greater national prosperity and independence?
So, what's happening right now? Well, the ball is pretty much in Lockheed Martin's court. Canada is back at the negotiating table, and they're using the Gripen offer as leverage to demand a better deal on costs, maintenance, and especially those all-important industrial benefits for Canadian companies.
Ultimately, this choice just perfectly captures a challenge that so many countries are facing today. It forces a nation to decide what it really values more: the deepest possible military link with its key allies, or the pursuit of its own long-term industrial strength and strategic freedom. And there is no easy answer.
And that concludes our look into this massive decision over Canada's fighter jet future. Thanks so much for your time and for joining us.
We would love for you to keep this conversation going. If you found this interesting, please hit that like button, share this with a friend, and subscribe to the Global War Watch Network. Let us know what you think in the comments section below, and be sure to join us on social media. All the links for that are in the description.